I'm gonna show to you, my fellow chessers, the chess game between Gukesh and Magnus Carlsen, my fellow chessers, in Norway Chess 2025, round number 6, my fellow chessers. So let's begin on e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop to b5, my fellow chessers, Rui Lopez, my fellow chessers. Rui Lopez, knight f6. This is Rui Lopez, Berlin defense, my fellow chessers. So this is Rui Lopez, Berlin defense, anti-Berlin defense, my fellow chessers, my fellow chessers. Because the main line of Berlin defense is castles kingside, knight takes e4, d4, knight d6, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, and then d takes e5, knight f5, queen takes d8, then king takes d8. This is the main line of Berlin defense, my fellow chessers. So we're gonna try to go back the anti-Berlin, my fellow chessers, the d3. Bishop c5. What is the idea of bishop c5, my fellow chessers? For beginners, like for example, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, and then knight takes e5. This is free, and we have queen to d4, my fellow chessers. As you can see, my fellow chessers, threatening checkmate on f2, attacking the pawn on f2 at the same time, attacking the knight on e5, my fellow chessers. As you can see here, the evaluation bar here. Black is winning on this position. So let's continue the game, the real game. Excuse. Bishop c5, c3, castle's king side. Excuse. Castle's king side. Then we have d6, h3, my fellow chessers, to avoid this, knight g4 or bishop to g4, something like that. a6, attacking the bishop on b5. And we have bishop a4, h6, as you can see, to avoid knight to g5 or bishop to g5. Rook e1, b5, bishop c2, bishop b6, wow, prophylactic, something like that. Knight bd2, preferring for knight f1 or knight b3, something like that. Knight to e7, preferring for knight g6, a4, rook b8, d4, wow. Knight g6, wow, preferring for knight f5, knight f4, something like that, my fellow chessers. So let's continue the game. Knight f1 on, preferring for here, knight g3 and knight to e3, something like that. c5, knight g3, wow, preferring for knight f5. C takes d4, c takes d4, b takes a4, wow, b takes a4. Bishop takes a4, bishop b7, attacking the pawn on e4 here, my fellow chessers. d4, blocking the bishop on b7, as you can see, like stone wall. a5, bishop e3, attacking the bishop on b6 here, my fellow chessers. You can see bishop b7. That's the idea of bishop b7, to support here the bishop on b6. Bishop c8, bishop c8, as you can see, bishop c8. b3, bishop takes e3, wow. Rook takes e3. Knight f5, knight f4, as you can see. That's the idea of knight f4. Wow. Okay. Bishop c6, rook b4. Wow. Queen c2, mistake of Gukesh. The best continuation on this position based on computer engine, my fellow chessers, is knight d2. Wow, supporting here to defend here. So you can see, to defend here. Okay. Then h5, something like that. So let's continue the real game. So let's continue Queen c2 to defend this pawn, as you can see obviously. g6, king h1, bishop a6. Wow, what's the idea of bishop a6? Go here or here. Anyway, let's continue the game. Queen to a2, mistake of Gukesh, my fellow Kachessers. The best continuation on this position based on computer engine, my fellow Kachessers, is rook c3 or king to h2, my fellow Kachessers. Probably take something like that. Alright, so let's continue the real game. Queen a2, mistake. Bishop d3. Good move, very good move of Magnus Carlsen, as you can see, the exclamation point. Knight d2 to defend this pawn because bishop attacking the pawn on a e4, knight e4, and then rook b e4, something like that to defend that. h5, wow. As you can see the evaluation bar here, Magnus Carlsen is still winning. My fellow Kachessers Black is still winning. Queen takes a5, wow. Queen takes a5, rook takes a5, h4, attacking the knight on g3, as you can see, my fellow Kachessers. Rook a4, rook b4, rook f b8, rook a2, wow. King to g6, king to g7. Why? Why Magnus Carlsen didn't take this? If it takes something like that, we have knight e2, knight e2, or knight takes b3. So let's continue the real game. King to g6, rook a7, rook to d4. Wow. Knight f3 attacking the rook on d4. But this is mistake. The best continuation in this position is knight gf1. Go here. Knight gf1 here. Alright. Sorry. So let's continue the game. Knight f3, attacking the rook, and then h takes g3, f takes g3, knight takes h3, mistake of Magnus Carlsen. The best continuation in this position is bishop takes e4. Wow, bishop takes e4. Then, like for example, g takes f4. We have rook to d1. Wow, as you can see, the evaluation bar is Magnus Carlsen is still winning, my fellow Kachessers. So, but let's go back to the real game. Alright. Here, knight takes h3, g takes h3, bishop takes e4, and then king h2, rook to d1, g4, bishop takes t5, bishop takes t5, knight takes t5, the same to attack the rook on e3, rook to e2, knight to f4, attacking the rook on e2, rook c2, as you can see. King f6, as you can see, h4, king to e6, knight to g4, knight to g5, attack the king on e6 at the same time here, the pawn on f7, rook to a5, king to d4, rook a4, king to d3, rook f2, f6, mistake of Magnus Carlsen. The best continuation on this position is rook to h8, my fellow Kachessers. That's the best continuation, or f5, something like that, or g5. But let's continue the game. The f6, rook f3, king to e2, rook a2, rook to d2, rook takes d2, rook takes d2, knight e4, king to e2, king to g3, g5, my fellow Kachessers. Knight takes f6, rook f8, rook f2, king to e1, knight to e7 to attack the rook on f8, my fellow Kachessers. Knight e2, blunder of Magnus Carlsen, my fellow Kachessers. The best continuation on this position, my fellow Kachessers, is rook to e8 or g5, my fellow Kachessers, or rook to g8. Rook to e8 is the best based on computer engine, my fellow Kachessers. But This is part of the game. Blunder, my fellow chessers. Knight to e2. As you can see, the evaluation bar. The white is winning, my fellow chessers. But that's fine. Rook to e2. Rook takes e2. Very good move. King takes e2. Knight takes f8. d4. Knight e6. d3. Knight to c5, king e2, why Magnus Carlsen didn't push this. Like, for example, we push here, we have knight to e4, and if we push here to promote queen, promoting queen, we have knight to c3. As you can see, for my fellow chessers, and white is still winning, my fellow chessers. That's why Magnus Carlsen d king to e3, knight a4, and e4, h4 takes, and then d2 here, and then knight c2, king to e2, king after king f4. Magnus Carlsen resigned the game. Why? If you continue the game, like for example here, knight takes, and then if you continue here, takes, and this pawn on h file is winning. Promoting to queen, my fellow chessers. Oh, that's fine, my fellow chessers. But that's part of the game, my fellow chessers. Blunder, my fellow chessers. After king to f4, Magnus Carlsen resigned the game. As you can see, the time of Magnus Carlsen and Gukesh, my fellow chessers. But that's fine, my fellow chessers. To God be all the glory. Praise Lord Jesus Christ.